You're standing right in front of someone you've definitely met before, and their name is just gone. Not fading, not fuzzy, just completely absent. And so begins the next 15 seconds of absolute social theater, leaning slightly sideways, scanning the room, hoping someone else will say it first, wondering if a minor emergency might save you. If this happens to you regularly, if you are someone who chronically, consistently blanks on names, there is something genuinely fascinating happening inside your brain, and understanding it will change the way you think about yourself forever. Let's go back to the moment you meet someone. Think about everything your brain is actually doing in those first few seconds. It is reading facial expressions, calculating tone of voice, figuring out the social dynamic, registering whether this person seems warm or cold, deciding what to say next, evaluating whether you're coming across well. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles working memory, is essentially running 6 programs at once. And right into the middle of all that cognitive chaos, someone hands you a single arbitrary sound. Hi, I'm David. David. Okay. David doesn't connect to anything. It doesn't trigger an image, a memory, an emotion, or a concept you already hold. It just floats there, completely isolated, in a brain that is far too overloaded to babysit a random syllable. Researchers actually identified why this is so specific to names back in 1987. Psychologists McWeeny and Ellis conducted a study that produced what's now called the Baker-Baker paradox. They showed participants the same photograph of a person. One group was told the person was a baker by occupation. Another group was told their last name was Baker. When tested days later, the people who learned it as a profession remembered it far more reliably than those who learned it as a surname. Same word, dramatically different retention. Because baker as a job activates an entire network of associations in your mind: ovens, bread, early mornings, warmth, a whole sensory world. Baker as a name activates absolutely nothing. It has no hooks. Names are semantically hollow, and your brain, which is ruthlessly efficient, holds on to things that connect to something it already knows. A floating, meaningless sound is at the bottom of that priority list. Think about a significant event from a few years ago. You probably remember who was emotional, what someone said that hit you unexpectedly, the atmosphere in the room, a specific moment that felt heavy or funny or strange. You almost certainly do not remember incidental details, the text in a program, a number on a door. Your brain made decisions about what deserved storage, and it chose meaning over mechanics every single time. Names are mechanics. Everything else about a person is the meaning. Now here's where it gets more personal and possibly more uncomfortable to hear. A large portion of people who consistently forget names are not disconnected or arrogant. They are actually intensely in their own heads during social interactions, and not in a confident way. While someone is introducing themselves, these people are internally running an audit. Did I make enough eye contact? Was that too much? Should I say something now or wait? Did I already interrupt them? The name arrives, briefly lands, and then the inner monologue completely steamrolls it. This connects to a documented phenomenon called the next-in-line effect, first observed by psychologist Malcolm Brenner in 1973. People waiting their turn to speak in a group showed significantly reduced memory for whatever the person directly before them said. Why? Because mentally, they had already moved on, already composing, already rehearsing. People with heightened social anxiety or chronic self-monitoring live in a version of that state constantly, always half a step ahead of the present moment, which means the exact instant a name is being handed to them, they are somewhere else entirely. So if you recognize yourself here, the reframe matters enormously. You do not have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem. Those are fundamentally different things. It is also worth acknowledging what it feels like to be on the receiving end of this, because the sting of having your name forgotten, especially more than once by the same person, is real. The silent message it sends to your nervous system is that you simply did not matter enough. That is how it registers, even when it is completely wrong. The person who forgot your name likely replayed your conversation afterward. They probably remember something specific you said, a particular reaction you had, something about you that was genuinely interesting or unexpected. They were present for all of it, just not quite present for the label. And this points to something most people misunderstand about memory at a fundamental level. Your brain is not a recording device. It does not store experiences like files on a hard drive. It stores impressions, emotions, fragments, patterns. It prioritizes aggressively. High emotional charge gets stored. Novelty gets stored. Things that connect to existing knowledge get stored. One arbitrary name handed to you at the precise moment you were busy trying to appear normal in front of a new person. That one is fighting an uphill battle from the start. People who forget names easily often share a specific cognitive style. They tend to be highly associative and contextual thinkers. Their memory is richly emotional and narrative. They remember how something felt, the exact expression on a person's face during a meaningful exchange, what was said that shifted the energy in a room. Ask one of these people what someone was wearing at a gathering years ago, and they might actually tell you. Ask them the name of the person standing beside them, and you will get a blank stare because the brain was busy encoding everything that felt real and alive, and the label simply was not that. This is not a defect. It is a particular cognitive architecture that happens to be genuinely well-suited to emotional attunement, to storytelling, to making people feel heard and understood in a deep way. It is just poorly suited to the narrow mechanical task of retaining an arbitrary sound under social pressure. None of this means you cannot improve. Repeating a name back immediately when introduced, linking it mentally to someone you already know, creating even a small visual association, these techniques genuinely work because you are manually constructing the associative bridge your brain refused to build automatically. You are giving Kevin a hook, a place to attach. But the quiet belief that forgetting names makes you someone who moves through the world without truly registering other people, that belief is simply wrong. You are not absent. You are someone whose brain prioritizes ruthlessly, whose internal weather sometimes hijacks the present moment, and who occasionally fails at the one thing that was always the least interesting thing about a person anyway. The name was assigned before they had done a single thing worth remembering. What you actually retain about people, the texture of who they are, what they care about, how they made you feel, that part is still there. It has always been there.